G'day mates! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is one of the most stacked videos I have ever done. We just got the Season 8 competitive blog post and it looks phenomenal. I am so excited to go through this. I'm talking, we have a completely reworked arena system by the looks of it. We're going to be getting a console FNCS. There is going to be arena fills, which is the option to fill to find teammates if you don't have friends to play with, but you don't want to play solo arena. We are getting a completely reworked FNCS format, including more reboot rounds and a shorter FNCS. We just had a $5 million tournament announced at the end of the year. I'm going to go through how you qualify for that. There is just genuinely so much to talk about in this. And also, I want to talk about some of the new teams that have just formed because we just had word that Zayt is returning to competitive Fortnite. This is not an impression farm. He is back and he is playing with Saf and Stretch. And that means Khanada needs to find a new team, but it looks like he already has. I also haven't had a chance to talk about how we had Hen, Jannisz, and Chapix split up, looking like Jannisz and Chapix have dropped Hen to play with none other than Tayson. So let's just jump straight in this video. There is so much to talk about. First off, let's talk about the arena changes. Now, first off, it's going to be a negative, but don't worry, I'm getting somewhere with this because you guys know I hate preseasons. I think preseasons are terrible, and we've had confirmation that Season 8 is getting a preseason, but don't worry, I'm not going to start complaining. It's okay. So it looks like arena points aren't going to reset until September 28th. This is also to make room for an event we're going to be getting on September 24th to 26th. It is the preseason warm-up test tournament. So it looks like they're going to be testing the competitive meta in that event before they reset arena points. Now, in the past, I've complained about preseasons because I think they've ruined a lot of the hype of the new season, and one of the main reasons I think they make no sense despite people arguing it is arena's not competitive, in my opinion. It has never been, it never will be unless they change it. There is just no reason to get a lot of points. The person who has 4,000 points is versing the person on 4 million points, and once you get to 6,000 points, anything past that, you don't gain anything. There's no way to D-rank, and you're versing people way outside your skill level, whether they be way too easy or if you've just gotten 4,000 points, way too hard. It's just, in my opinion, not competitive. So why do we care about not resetting points so that everyone has less fun to try to make a non-competitive game mode more competitive? But again, I'm not going to start complaining because it looks like they've done it for a reason. We are getting an arena rework. Now, I don't know how big this is going to be. I don't think it's exactly what I've been pushing for in the past, where I've been talking about, you know, maybe they make a skin every season and you get a different variation of that skin based on how many points you get so you can flex it, you know, getting like logos in game. So in the kill feed or in your friends list, you have a really cool icon to match how good you are. Maybe tournaments where you need way more arena points to get into them. Like, I've suggested so many changes to make arena more competitive, to make it work. And I truly think it could work that way. Pretty much taking a model very similar to other battle royales like Apex Legends that have a really good functioning rank system, or even other esports like Rocket League, Valorant, just League of Legends, other games that have a proper rank system. But we are getting changes. I don't know if they're that far, but they have said that we noticed the changes we made to the scoring system last season allowed players to get Champions League even faster than before. With Champions League as the qualification metric to most of our competitive events, like FNCS, we want the achievement to hold more value. So they're making adjustments to how you get arena points. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go crazy and add a bunch of rewards, but it looks like getting to champs is going to be harder, and that makes sense. This season, duos and trios especially, was a joke. If you had two good friends, you could run through and drop 30, 40 bombs in arena. I mean, I've been doing them on stream. I mean, obviously I'm playing with usually two pros who are phenomenally good, but you know, I dropped almost a 40 bomb today in duos and you get so many points for that, like way too many. It's incentivizing just straight up keying people. If they make arena points a little bit more placement heavy, it's not going to make the game super stacked unless they start adding in those other elements like I talked about to make you want to do better. We saw recently with the, I think it was the aura scrims or whatever the scrims are that Fortnite tried to run, they literally made eliminations worth 0 points and people still keyed because unless you're playing for something, keying is more fun than boxing up. So I hope there's going to be more changes than that. Maybe that's just going to be it and I'm getting too excited for nothing, but hey, it's enough to make me think maybe the preseason is going to be worth it. Now, another point, they said we can't point to a date just yet, so no specific date, but our intention is to explore a fill option for arena at a later point in Season 8. Once this test goes live, we'll let you know. So it looks like Season 8 is going to going to be when they finally add an arena fill option. So if you don't want to play pubs and you don't have friends to play, or you don't want to play solos, you queue up for duos, trios, whatever the arena game modes are, and it will pair you with random teammates. And that could be a really cool way to find new friends and play with new players. It's going to be interesting. If anything, that for me is going to make arena even less competitive, because if you're triple stacking with two friends and you're combing and you're playing properly and you go up against a team who's never played together before, one of them might not even be using their microphone, that could be a little bit rough. But a lot of people have been asking for this for a long time. It sounds like Epic's listening, and it looks like they're at least going to start with a test before they fully implement it. So bravo, I'm excited for these changes. Let's talk about the next big one, the FNCS Grand Royale final event, a $5 million tournament taking place on November 12th, just 2 weeks after this season's FNCS Grand Final ends. So we're going to have Season 8 FNCS Grands, 2-week break, straight into a $5 million tournament. If you're like me and you love competitive Fortnite, that is very exciting news. Now, very interesting on how you actually qualify for this though, and I don't really know how I feel, but I guess we'll see. Any eligible player who has made a single lobby round of FNCS, so a round 4, semifinals or finals. So anytime you've gotten down to just one lobby worth of players, 6 games, whether it be grand finals, 6 games on 2 days, or whether it's just one of the qualifying weeks or the semifinals, you can qualify. It says this year may make a trio for the event, so they don't have to play with the trio they already qualified with. So this isn't making you stick with a trio. You can have qualified and then find new teammates, and as long as one of you is qualified, you are eligible, which is very interesting. They said we'll have more information on the rules and format later in the season, so be on the lookout for that blog. So I'm excited to see how they're going to make this work. It is going to take place over 2 weeks though, so it's 2 weeks spanning on November 12th. So it's not just like we had with the All-Stars Invitational where it was just the finals. It's gonna have some kind of qualification process, and based on the fact that you can literally just reform teams as long as one of you qualified, they're gonna have to have some pretty rigorous qualifications, because there's gonna be a lot of teams, and there's gonna be a lot of teams splitting just to play, right? Because if your whole trio played, let's say you made round 4 of week 1 this season, all 3 of you have now qualified. All 3 of you could split and find, 2 teammates each that didn't qualify. That now makes 9 players that are going through based on only 3 people having qualified. I know not everyone's going to do that, but a good amount of people I imagine are. So this is going to have to be a crazy qualification, but I kind of like that. It's not forcing teams to play together. I like the fact that Epic is trying to keep the game mode consistent. I'm a bit bored of trios, just like you guys, but for this, at the same time, I love when we have those consistent storylines. Sensitive Edgy Commandment, Epic Well, Arkham Rex. We did have Daymere Reverse, which is obviously split now, but keeping those storylines going across seasons is very cool. But I don't feel like players should be shackled and forced to play together just to play in a big tournament if they don't want to. So it looks like it's going to be trios as well. They say make a trio, so it's definitely trios. Some people thought this might be another solos event like All-Stars, but it is trios. Now we have the prize pool breakdown here as well. Looks pretty standard to what we're used to. EU's going to get the big share of it. NA East a little bit less. Brazil, NA West, it looks like they're sticking to NA West prize pool being like almost half of Brazil, so it looks like nothing's changing in this new season with the prize pool split. Asia, Middle East, and then of course OC right down the bottom with less than 100 grand, but yeah, sad to see it, but Epic has already made their stance on how they're breaking up the prize pool. It's based on the amount of players that play in FNCS, and unless that's changed drastically, the numbers are going to stay the same. I've already given all my thoughts about that in the past. Yes, I think that's incredibly fair. I really do wish there was a bit more of a system of how good the top 33 teams are in each region, because that's what FNCS goes towards, not just how many people are playing, but that's a very hard metric. It's very hard for Epic to start picking and choosing because there's not a lot of stats to rely on, like how good, you know what I mean? Like you're always going to hear people say that, NA West is way better than Asia. You have people say Asia's better than, NA West. Middle East is the best. OC is the worst. OC is better than Asia. Like, you're going to hear that. Everyone's going to debate. There's no definitive way to prove it, so Epic's just trying to do what they think's fair. Next up, the other tournaments, what the tournament schedule is going to look like, and the console FNCS. So I don't want to get you guys console too excited. It's still good, but it's going to be that same console Champions Cup you're used to seeing once a season. $250,000 prize pool. It's going to take place on November 5th to November 7th. The cup will run just like it has the last 2 seasons. In addition to the console Champions Cup though, we plan to hold console specific tournaments where players can go head to head against each other on the same console machine. We'll share more details about our plans for those at a later date. So That's interesting. So first off, there is going to be a console tournament, but unfortunately, it's going to function the same way as the past seasons. Don't jump all over me. I say unfortunately because I want console to get more prize money and I want them to distribute the prize money differently. Talked about this a bunch in the past. I don't think they should be paying out real top-heavy prize pools, like first place gets a ridiculous amount, second gets a good amount, because that's just making a lot of PC players switch to console, play for the prize pool, and get it again. No hate to those players. They did win on the same format, and I'm not saying that these tournaments should be like a charity. Everyone seems to think that. I just think we should just be giving free money to console, but I genuinely do think these tournaments should operate in some kind of a function to give money and an opportunity to compete back to console players. Most console players just want to play against other console. They don't really even care about the prize money. I still think a console FNCS that takes place at the same time as PC FNCS that has maybe 20 to 30% of the prize pool spread really thin would be great, because it's enough where it keeps console players engaged, it grows the community. They would then hopefully use that money to try to save up towards getting a PC, upgrade, jump on the PC track because it has more money and the money is more top heavy. It would stop players on PC going and playing in the console tournaments, because since the prize money spread more thin, they're not just trying to aim for that first place. They're not going to get as much anyway. A lot of people disagree with me. I'm not saying that's the most competitive way to do it. I'm just saying I think that's the most fair way, or the healthiest way for the Fortnite community, and would generate the most amount of growth. It would keep the scene really healthy. It would have a lot of, console players getting into competitive, which would then drive, more attention towards the broadcast, towards content. Maybe they're buying more of the skins, they're getting more involved with the game, and that grows everything. I fully understand the argument that, PC players playing in console tournaments on console is fair, and I get that. I'm just talking from a business standpoint and a health of the game standpoint. I think more needs to be done for the console community, and it looks like Epic agrees. Even more so, go head to head against each other on the same console machine. So are we talking next gen's only going to play against next gen and old gen's only going to play against old gen? Or are we talking PlayStation, like PS4, PS5 versus each other, and the new Xbox versus the old? Like, I don't know how they're going to do that, but they've never used that wording before. The same console machine. This could be very exciting for you guys on old gen, trying to get an opportunity to see how well you hold up against your old gen brethren, because since obviously new gens come out, you're going up against guys who are holding 100 to 120 FPS. They're running smooth as butter with way less input delay, and you are getting left in the dust a little bit. It's not you, it's just the hardware you're on. So I'm interested to see how this looks. It's going to be super exciting. Let's look at the other tournaments that Epic has scheduled. So they said we're going to continue our regular cadence of Cash Cups and LTM tournaments in Season 8, Trio Cash Cups and Trio Hype Cups on Mondays, new Duos Hype Cups on Fridays, so a duo event. It's nice, only for hype, but we're getting some duos in there, which is my favorite game mode. Solo Cash Cups on Sundays, which few people in the community aren't happy about. I don't like that they clash with the FNCS, but now if FNCS is only taking place for 3 weeks, which I'm going to talk about soon, don't worry, the FNCS format explanation is coming. They said LTM tournaments sprinkled around. DreamHack Cash Cup extras are scheduled for October 6th, November 3rd, and December 1st. So we're getting 3 more DreamHack Cash Cup extras. I love those. With our tie schedule for Season 8, the NA East and EU DreamHack Open, so that's the duo events, like actual, more DreamHack, not just the Cash Cup extras, is scheduled for October 7th to 10th. So we're going to have to wait about a month from those, but that's okay. That's not too far. More information on that event will be available on DreamHack's website at a later date. Also, they did say down the bottom, other offerings. There's still more to come that we aren't quite ready to talk about, including a new series of outfit cups. That's exciting. Expect a packed schedule this competitive season, and we'll be sure to inform you of all the tournament offerings as more of the details are ready to be shared. So looking like a pretty standard competitive format. Nothing's really changed. Trio Cash Cups, Solo Cash Cups, LTMs, and Skin Cups, but we are getting a duo hype night, DreamHack staying around. So it's looking pretty good. I like the current competitive format. I think there could be some tweaks, but overall, I've already talked about that, and I'm still very, very happy with this. I saved the format for the last thing to talk about with this blog post because it is a bit confusing. I'm going to try to make it make as much sense as possible, but more importantly, I'm going to talk about what it means, because one of the big implications is we now have 12 reboot rounds. 12 reboot rounds. So let's talk about how it works. This graphic here is absolutely phenomenal. It's by a user at YT_Verti, I believe it is. Thank you so much. This graphic is just amazing. It does help a lot. So instead of having 3 qualifying weeks, there is now going to be 2. You can see that on the top left. So 2 qualifying weeks. They are going to function exactly the same as the last FNCSs. There's going to be 4 rounds on each week. The last round is going to be the finals, top 33 teams. From those top 33 teams, whoever comes top 5 is going straight through into the grand finals. So that's going to happen on week 1 and week 2. That's what you can see in the top left from the qualifiers. Still following? All right, sweet. Now, semifinals. This is where it gets different. So obviously in previous seasons, we've had top 3 go through from the qualifying weeks, but changing it from 3 to 5 isn't that different. The big changes are in the semifinals. Instead of having 3 heats in the semifinals, we're only going to have 2 heats. So the top 66 most consistent teams who didn't get top 5 in the first 2 weeks, they're going to get shuffled into 2 different heats. In that heat, they're only going to play 4 games, and the top 4 from each heat are going to go through. So you can see that there. Top 4 from each heat, they go through. Now, day 2 of the semifinals, which is normally reboot round, the reboot round is still there, but you've taken out the top 8 trios. So now it's the top 58 trios. They're going to be shuffled into 2 heats, and they're going to play 6 matches each, and whoever gets the victory Royale in those 6 matches is going straight through to the grand finals. So that's 12 reboot rounds. I hope that made sense. So as you can see, the way the final 33 players is going to be tallied is the top 3 from the last trio's grand finals. They're going straight through like they always were. The top 10 trios, so top 5 from each of the first 2 weeks, they're going to be in the grand finals. Then you're going to get the top 8 from day 1 of the semifinals, which is just going to be like normal semifinals, nothing crazy. Then the last 12 are going to come from whoever gets the victory Royale, one of the 6 in each heat, which is day 2 of the semifinals, which is your reboot rounds. I hope that made sense. Now, let's talk about what that means for FNCS though. So what this means is there's going to be a lot of really good teams who probably do just miss out on qualifying, and there's definitely going to be, in my opinion, a lot of teams who don't deserve to be in the finals who are going to make it through. And let me explain that. So if you come top 66 most consistent trios in your region, which in a lot of regions isn't that insanely difficult when we're talking about grand finals, right? Like grand finals is pretty tough to get into. So that means all you have to do is win 1 game potentially. 1 game. So you play 2 weeks. You've just got to be top 66 teams from those 2 weeks, which means if you're a really good team and you have 1 bad week, the pressure is massively on. You just don't get to have a bad week, which in opens is where there's more issues. Obviously, early opens rounds, the pros are that good. They stomp their way through, they make it through. But in the later rounds, especially round 2 and definitely round 3, you can just have a bad week. You can be contested too many times. Things can go wrong. Normally, you have 3 weeks. So if you have 1 bad week, the next 2, you make it up. Even if you don't get into, even if you don't get, top 3 previously in the round 4, you still made it through to semifinals on consistency. Now you've only got 2 weeks. So if you have 1 bad week, you're looking really rough to have a very, very good week 2. But even then, let's say, you make it through. You don't get top 4 in the day 1 of the semifinals. All you got to do is win 1 game of 6 for the reboot round. So a team could potentially come 66th by being the 66th most consistent team in their region, which means they will probably not even have made a round 4. So they could not even make a final round of the first 2 weeks. Then they get into semis. They don't come top 4. They could come dead last. Let's say they come 33rd or whatever it is. Yeah, 33rd in their semifinal day 1. Then they just have to win 1 game. It could be the only game that they win during the entire FNCS, and they're now through into the grand finals. Seems a little bit off for me. That's not my only concern. Not only is it the fact that it's going to be really hard for consistent teams to be rewarded, it's really rewarding inconsistency, if anything. It's also the fact it's going to make the reboot round way less exciting. Reboot round was amazing when it was 1. It was like, oh my god, who gets this victory Royale? Then they made it 3 and it was still like, oh my gosh, 3 rounds. Then there was like 4 rounds in most regions. Some regions like Middle East and Asia had 6, and it was still like exciting, but like, okay, 6 matches. Now there's 12. I think it's too much of a good thing. I think Epic has done something really cool with the reboot round, and I think they've just gone too far in on a good thing. I don't think it's going to be as exciting, but hey, I'm still here for it. And they're changing stuff. They're trying something. They did give their rationale in the blog post. One of the main reasons they talked about was the fact that they like the fact that drop spots change. So once someone qualifies, it leaves the drop spot open. So it leads to more last minute decision making. And I think it's Epic trying to get away from that narrative of players owning drop spots. And they really like that fact that it's last minute decision making rather than a lot of pre-planning going into it. But I don't think that's fair. I think that's what a lot of competitive Fortnite is. I don't agree with the whole, obviously, just like, you know, locking down a drop spot and no one can drop on you, but preparation of learning your drop spot and fighting for it in scrims and qualifiers and, you know, being the best team that drops there, that should be rewarded. I don't think we should be trying to move away from that. So it scares me a little bit that Epic is deliberately changing the format to try to go against what a lot of the competitive community is gearing towards. But hey, I mean, you go back and you watch old tournaments back in the day, and it was pretty cool to watch teams and players fight a lot more early on than what they do now, rather than just, you know, having different POIs. And if Fortnite competitive community gets what they want at this point, we're going to have essentially 30 POIs. Everyone's going to have one POI. No one's going to fight except for Storm Surge tags. They're going to fight for Storm Surge and then go into endgame, which would ultimately be boring. We can go too far the wrong way. I think Epic's trying to push the community a little bit further towards the aggressive route, which I think could be good in moderation, but I don't think the reboot round's the way to do it. But we'll see. I hope that all made sense, because it can be a bit confusing. Don't feel stupid if you weren't following along. It did take me a minute to get it as well. Now, that's it for the blog post. Like I said, super exciting, a lot to unpack. I also want to include that I'm going to be doing a video tomorrow talking about this new event. If you don't know what's going on with the end of season event, there's some really exciting stuff, including some big evidence I think I've discovered on why next season might actually be the last season for this chapter, and why I think potentially chapter 3 is going to start with season 9. So that'll be in tomorrow's video, because there was some teasers in this blog post as well, but I don't want to go into detail. I want to save that for tomorrow. Today's video is already stacked enough. So let's start to talk about these new team swaps. So today we had the announcement that Zayt is returning to competitive Fortnite. Stretch tweeted out Zayt, Saf, Stretch, not a troll, and showed Lazy Lake. Now, a lot of you guys are going to think this is an impression farm. I have very good sources to believe this is not an impression farm. Zayt is coming back to competitive Fortnite, and this is crazy. A lot of people are, you know, very excited for this, myself included. Obviously, now recently having signed to NRG, I'm so excited to have another NRG player and team to cheer on, especially Zayt. Zayt is the OG GOAT. Everyone loves watching Zayt. His playstyle is fantastic, but he serves a very pivotal role in the community, especially NA East. The last season's practice was the worst practice has ever been in NA East, and I think partially it was due to a lot of tournaments, partially was due to a lot of pros being demotivated, but it was also due to Zayt stepping away, because EU, for the first time, I think in history, had better practice than NA East. NA East has always had far better practice than EU, but recently there's a lot of people in the EU community, shout out to people like Coach Boop, who've stepped up and really kind of increased the practice scene over there. But it shows the pros are willing to play. But on NA East, they just couldn't get it together. They tried so many times to make scrims work. The players weren't disciplined. No one was listening. People were griefing. People weren't playing. And it's not a coincidence. It was the season that Zayt stepped away. Zayt is the godfather of NA East. He's the one who runs NA East and makes it work. So I'm really excited to see Zayt come back, but a lot of people questioning that whether with Zayt in his current state, was it a downgrade from Khanada? And that is crazy to think about, because Zayt is one of the best, if not best, competitive players to ever touch the game. Has achieved things that almost no other player has. But he has stepped away for a little bit, and Khanada is on the top of his game. Khanada is arguably, or in my opinion, unarguably, one of the best players in the world. So should they be dropping Khanada to play with Zayt? It's up to them. I think Stretch and Saf, they know. They're also two phenomenal players who have achieved incredible things. They're not making this decision lightly. I'm sure they had good reason to do so. And again, if you're still thinking it might be an impression farm, I can almost guarantee you it's not. Khanada himself tweeting out, yo, me getting dropped was chill. I'm not upset or nothing. I respect their decision. All effing good. And I love that from Khanada, really showing a lot of maturity as a player these days. Just, you know, hey, got dropped, but, you know, good decision from them. I fully understand it. But Khanada's ended up pretty well as well. But how do I feel about this? I think Zayt is still one of the best. I think Stretch, while being a phenomenal IGL, setting up his team in such good positioning, Zayt is the king of that. And I think depending on how his next format looks, if it doesn't have launch pads, so high ground meta, getting it early and holding it and reinforcing it goes back to being the meta, Zayt is one of the best players in the world at doing that. And I think honestly this was the best season for Zayt to step away, because Zayt's playstyle with launch pads the way they are just would not have worked as well. It didn't work as well. Stretch struggling to try to emulate that playstyle because of teams like Yomzo just psycho padding hype. But Khanada. Where has Khanada ended up? Back with Degen Ages, and we had Degen tweet this out. We had tweet out a photo with Khanada, Degen Ages. They're holding the pickaxe, and Khanada retweeted. So again, this is real. I would be very surprised to see this turn out to be an elaborate impression farm. But what do I think about this team? This is a team that tried to form last season. If you guys remember, Degen Ages picked up Khanada and dropped Skittles. This caused a giant snake eating that ended up being undone when Avery said that he was not going to split up with Saf and Stretch, which meant that Khanada couldn't play with it. Everything got ugly. If you guys don't remember that, I did a video on it. I'll link in the description down below. It's old news now, but this now means that Khanada is going to play with Degen Ages, and I'm really excited to see this. I think Skittles is phenomenal, but Degen Ages did not perform the way they wanted last FNCS, partially due to being contested on their drop by Colazo, but also partially just due to because they went from dropping their usual drop spot of Orchard, which was good and was always theirs, but wasn't too insane, to try to pick up a major tier 1 POI like Corny, and that's when they didn't get it. I remember, if you guys remember, Colazo talking about it, saying they should have stayed in their lane. I guess maybe they're picking up even more firepower. Skittles has got a crazy good reputation. He's a phenomenal player, but Khanada's scary. So this means the two teams are looking really good. Where's Skittles going to end up? I'm not 100% sure yet. NA wasn't the only region that had some insane tier 1 team swaps. We have announcement that Jannisz, Chapix, and Tayson are going to be playing together for the next FNCS, which means obviously Hen has been dropped. Now, Chapix responded to this tweet saying the decision was obviously hard to make, and Hen is one of the most talented players I've played with, and in the future, he will easily be the best in the world. I think this could work out and just going to put all the time in for the next season. So it looks like it's real. We also have Rezon even responding saying, yo, Hen, boy, we playing, because obviously Tayson, Rezon, and Vino were playing. We've heard how Vino had been dropped, but it looked like Tayson and Rezon were going to stay together. Now Rezon is left out by himself as well, and so is Hen. So I don't know who Hen is exactly going to be playing with at this point. It seems to be a little bit up in the air of exactly what's going on in EU. I do want to do another more in-depth update video in a few days, because we do have, you know, some interesting teams forming. It looks like we might have what might be Mongrel's team, and I think he's actually teaming up with Aqua. But again, I'll talk about that in a few days, because I think over the next few days a few pieces are going to land, and I really like in these videos to only talk about the ones that I have a very, very good feeling about, that are actually going to stick together and aren't just fake impression farms. They weren't just on a whim, oh yeah, you're looking for a team, so am I, yeah, we're together, and then when tournaments come around, they're not actually playing. This one I have full faith in. Jannisz, Chapix, and Tayson are back together. I'm very excited for it. I mean, Tayson is probably the only player in the world you could drop Hen for and almost have no one question it. Some people are still questioning it, but hey, it's Tayson. Who's not going to take the chance to play with Tayson given the opportunity? And of course, no one is surprised at all, despite Tayson's top 5 in the last FNCS. That's not good enough for Tayson. He wants a FNCS winning team, and I truly think Jannisz, Chapix, and Tayson could be that. I think also as well, based on Chapix's response about Hen, you know, could be the best in the world later, and also Hen's tweet at the end of last season saying that he hasn't been taking the game as seriously. It looks like maybe this season wasn't Hen's brightest when it came to just him being motivated to try. A lot of pros were really demotivated this season. Maybe Hen fell into that trap as well, so I have no doubt Hen will pick up a phenomenal team and absolutely pop off. Potentially with Rezon, there's a lot of moving parts in EU right now. There's at least like 5 to 10 tier 1 and tier 2 insanely good pros who are all looking for teams, so I'm excited to see where the pieces land, and I'll probably have an update video in the next few days talking about even more teams that have just announced. Now, like I said, tomorrow's video is probably me detailing everything we've had leaked so far about this new event, how we're going to be getting a mini black hole, why I think that Season 9 will actually take place in Chapter 3. There's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to save that for tomorrow's video because this one has already been stacked enough, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.